Hello and welcome to our webinar, Thriller, Mystery, and True Crime. I'm Annie Bostrom, Senior Editor for Adult Books at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom an hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode today, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all of our webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the Captions icon on that toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates the standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Vic Britton, Commissioning Editor at Severn House, Grace Caternolo, Marketing Assistant at HarperCollins Publishers, Erica Loberg, Senior Publicist at SOHO Press, Faith Matson, Director of Marketing and Publicity for Oceanview Publishing, and Morgana Santilli, Sales and Marketing Coordinator at Yen Press. First, we'll hear from Vic Britton. Vic is Severn House's Commissioning Editor. She comes to the team with 16 years editorial experience, the last 6 of which were as commissioning editor for Harlequin. Vic edits and acquires a wide range of genre fiction, from historical mysteries and contemporary thrillers to romance. She's always actively searching for more genre fiction authors to join Severn House's stellar list. A proud Yorkshire lass, she lives in Skipton with her husband, 2 small people, and 2 troublesome cats. Thanks for joining us, Vic.
Thanks, Annie. I'm really happy to be here. I've been looking forward to presenting this today for a while. So thank you everyone for joining us. So Severn House has been publishing for the library market since the 1970s. In fact, next year will in fact be our 50th anniversary. I know, we don't look a day over 49. We publish 6 to 8 titles a month across the genre board. And I'm super excited to talk to you today about just a few of our upcoming titles. So we can have the first slide, please. That's great, thank you. First up, I want to talk about Devils at the Door by Tessa Weggett. This is book 5 in Tessa's Shana Merchant series. The Shana Merchant novels are a brilliant blend of chilling psychological thriller and gripping police procedural, set against the beautiful backdrop of the Thousand Islands. So even though this is book 5 in the series, I'd say it's safe for readers to jump straight in. Shana's backstory is really well covered without it being too over-explained. And new readers will be tempted to go back and maybe read previous installments just to see what they've missed, rather than feel confused by what they're reading in this book. So when 16-year-old Henrietta is suddenly outed as being related to one of New York's most prolific serial killers, senior investigator Shana Merchant and Henrietta's aunt agrees to take her under her wing and try to help her come to terms with this shocking news. But when Henrietta, or Hen to her friends, arrives, Shana worries that she may have bitten off a little bit more than she can chew. When Shana is called to investigate the suspicious drowning of a local teenager, only to discover her niece at the scene of the crime, things get a little bit murkier. The book asks the question, how might being related to a serial killer affect a teenage girl and her friendships at a formative point in her life? Quite a lot, I think. Publishers Weekly says fans of David Mark's D.S. McAvoy series should check this out. And fans will probably appreciate the focus on characterization and setting, But readers who maybe think David Mark is too dark will appreciate the thrills and chills of Tessa's writing, her female protagonist, without a focus on the violent description. Next title, please. Thank you. Next, I'm excited to talk to you about The Night Side by M.M. DeLuca. This is a fabulous domestic psychological thriller from a brand new author to Severn House. The story centres around Ruby Carson, who at 18 ran away from her home and her complicated, manipulative mother, vowing never to return. Now, 20 years later, Ruby is back, her mother is missing, presumed dead, and Ruby reluctantly returns to settle her mother's affairs. So Marjorie, MM, is excellent at creating suspense and surprise. We go on a real journey with Ruby to find out what's happened to her missing mother, but there's an astonishing secret twist at the end relating to Ruby herself that you absolutely don't see coming. The unfriendly, hostile setting adds to the sustained sense of threat and foreboding, and Ruby's hometown is a small place, and everyone has turned against her mother. They also blame Ruby as she was dragged into her mother's schemes in the past. The book itself shifts between past and present sections, which gives you an eagerly turning the pages as past secrets and truths about Ruby and her mother collide with the present. And as a final random tidbit, Marjorie, the author, comes from quite a creative family, as her brother is Trevor Horn, said to be the man who invented the 80s, if any of you know of him, producing songs such as Video Killed the Radio Star, which just happens to be one of my favourite songs. There's a random thought there. Next slide, please. Thank you. So next, we have The Nubian's Curse by the fabulous Barbara Hamley. This is an amazing number 20 in the instalment of Benjamin January Historical Mystery Series. This is a long-running series. It features free man of colour Benjamin January, a surgeon turned piano player who investigates crimes in the 1830s and 1840s New Orleans. It's a fabulous setting. This is the perfect series for readers who enjoy mysteries with diverse characters and cameos from real-life historical figures. This particular instalment features a sensitive fictional portrayal of black historical neurodiverse characters. This story sees the return of an old friend, Arithmus, a Sudanese man with extraordinary mental abilities. It's been 15 years since January saw him last, since Arithmus, his benefactor, was discovered dead, and shortly afterwards, he vanished himself, never to be seen again. January is determined to uncover the truth about the tragic incident from his past and to clear his old friend's name. The Nubian's Curse features a cursed statue, a haunted French chateau, and a seemingly supernatural death. It's a proper adventure story, as well as a gripping, twisty mystery. The series has garnered multiple starred reviews, and although it's long-running, it's safe to jump straight in. Next title, please. Thanks. So next, we have a brand new standalone from author of the popular Grey Villiers thriller series, Matt Hilton. This is something rather different for Matt, and we're really excited about it at Severn House. Girl in the Smoke is a standalone domestic thriller which forces readers to ask just how far would you go to save your family. The book takes place over the course of one day, but during those 24 hours, the lives of three very different characters are changed forever. 8-year-old Danny, who was the sole survivor of a motorway pile-up 3 years ago, which took her mother's life and changed the course of hers forever. Josie, Danny's adopted mother, who was devoted the last 3 years protecting her daughter, but with one knock at the door, her entire world is now in danger. And Grace, Josie's younger sister, who finds her big sister and niece kidnapped. She'll stop at nothing to get her family back home safe. Matt Hilton brings his immense skill of creating tough, hard-hitting action and violence with a more domestic touch, taking a good hard look at how powerful the bond can be between mother and daughter, sister and sister. It is a real page-turner, and as we've come to expect from Matt, we think this book is going to hit really well with his loyal readership, as well as entice some new readers, hopefully, to his fan club. Next title, please. Thank you. Next up is At Any Cost by Jeffrey Saiger. The New York Times have named Jeffrey Siger as Greece's thriller novelist of record and described the series as thoughtful police procedurals set in picturesque but not untroubled Greek locales. A former Wall Street lawyer, Jeff quit his job to move to Greece and to write the Caldas mysteries. He now lives in Greece for half of the year, and so his familiarity with the country and in-depth research mean the country really does spring to life off the pages. At Any Cost features the hot topics of environment, climate change, and the rising threat of AI technology, and the metaverse, in a fast-paced blend of police procedural, mystery, and thriller, with characters who just spring off the page. Chief Inspector Caldas is asked to investigate a series of wildfires in the Greek islands. The environmental devastation, reasons for setting the fire, and the political aftermath are all key components of the book. It's quite right to note that this was written before this summer's devastating fires, so I think it really will be a thought-provoking read. The series has garnered multiple star reviews, and although it is long running, again, it really is, it's great just to jump in straight here at number 13. Next slide, please. Thank you. And last, but by no means least, I'd love to talk to you about the fabulous first installment of a gripping new thriller series set in Chicago and featuring a young sibling sleuth duo and their working dogs. The Dead Years by Jeffrey Burton, a Chicago canine thriller. So siblings Corey and Crystal Pratt are still trying to get their lives together after a tragic accident which killed their parents. The only thing that distracts them now is their jobs, with Crystal working as a newly minted detective at the Chicago Police Department and Corey owning a dog training academy with 2 human remains detection dogs of his own. Their professional paths do cross every now and then. When a string of killings happen to seem to be connected to a Netflix docuseries and its crew and cast, Corey and Crystal are called in to stop the number of bodies from piling high. In this book, Burton offers the reader different points of view throughout the story, including inside the serial killer's thought process and backstory, which really does make for an intriguing read. It's wonderfully fast-paced, and the plot is exceptionally well laid out with lots of surprising twists and turns that I obviously won't go into now. All in all, this fast-paced thriller is a perfect up-all-night binge read and a great choice if you love spirited detectives, great action, and of course, very good dogs. And the next slide, please. And that is a wrap from me and from Severn House. I'd like to say thank you to Booklist for hosting the webinar and for letting me kick things off today. I hope everyone has been able to understand my dulcet northern British tones for the last 10-11 minutes. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? Please do get in touch if you have any questions. I would love to hear from you, and thanks again.
Thank you so much, Vic. Time does fly when we're having fun. And we'll now hear from Grace Caternolo. Grace is the marketing assistant of the library marketing team at HarperCollins. When they're not tying up odds and ends for the Library Love Fest team, you can find them reading coming-of-age novels next to their cat or watching TikToks for work purposes. Follow Library Love Fest on Instagram and TikTok at Harper Library. Thanks for being here today, Grace.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Caternolo, and I am 1/3 of the Library Love Fest team, and I'm so glad to be here. These books are to die for, and I'm thrilled to be telling you about them. And that is enough bad puns for now. On the next slide, you can scan the QR code to be taken to the Edelweiss catalog of all of these books I'm going to chat about, and some bonus books that I won't have time for, and this will also be sent to you after the presentation. So without further ado, our first book is Don't Let the Devil Ride by Ace Atkins, on sale June 4th. He is a New York Times bestselling author of numerous thrillers, including 11 books in the Quinn Coulson series. He was also selected by Robert B. Parker's family to continue the Spencer series, so he's added more novels to that as well. He's a fantastic writer, and we're so excited to be publishing this one from him. This is a standalone thriller set in 2012 Memphis, Tennessee, so readers that are fans of Southern settings will want to pick this up. Memphis socialite Addison's husband, Dean, disappears from her life, and she's aware that they don't have this perfect marriage, but it does seem a bit drastic to just vanish. When she brings this up with Dean's associates, she's brushed off. The cops are also not listening to her, and her concern leads her to reach out to a well-known PI, Porter Hayes, who is also friends with her father. The two start to look into Dean's business affairs, and they realize that he is not who Addison thought he was. He's entrenched with this high-stake entanglement and dangerous people that won't think twice about coming after his family if necessary. This is classic Ace Atkins with atmospheric literary writing that will appeal to a large audience, not just those who love mystery and crime genre. And Ace will also be at LG's Day of Dialogue in our booth at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. So also with Peter Swanson, so make sure you stop by. And next we have Pay Dirt by Sarah Paretsky on sale April 14th. Sarah is an award-winning and best-selling novelist, and this is the 23rd book in her beloved V.I. Warshawski series. I'm a big fan of strong female characters, and if you are too, you're going to love this one. After a particularly hard case, Vi begins to question herself. She forgets to eat, forgets to take care of herself, so her friends send her off to Kansas for a relaxing weekend with one of her proteges, Angela. This all goes south when Sabrina, one of Angela's roommates, goes missing. Vi stays to find her, but it's proving to be difficult. She's in a new place, doesn't have the same connections, but she does find Sabrina almost dead in a drug house and ends up being in a situation with the FBI and the county's opioid dealers. She uncovers this mystery that goes back to the Civil War, and her survival is on the line. Sarah will also be at Day of Dialogue this Thursday on the mystery panel, so don't miss her talking more about Pay Dirt. Next, we have One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole. I am so excited to tell you about this new thriller. She's the best-selling author of thrillers and romance, and you'll likely remember her previous thriller, When No One Is Watching, that did so well, and we're really excited to have a new one by her. Think Knives Out meets The Shining in this psychological suspense thriller. Ken's career as a historical preservationist is seemingly ruined following a mental breakdown and a diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder. However, she's been given this opportunity and a second chance when she's offered a job as a live-in caretaker of a historic home. The home is on this isolated island in the Hudson River, so the setting's already creepy enough, but it's an opportunity that she can't pass up, even though her previously dormant altars are popping up again. A storm rolls in and a surprise visit from the Conservation Trust at the same time. She's stuck on this island with a bunch of strangers. Doesn't sound like it'll go badly at all. And of course, one of the people she's stuck with is a man who played a role in her downfall years earlier. He turns up dead, and she is the main suspect. Ken has to team up with her alters to prove their innocence, uncover the mystery of the island, and try not to lose their life. The e-galley is up, and I highly encourage you to go download it. Next, we have I Will Ruin You by Linwood Barclay. Firstly, what a title. Talk about gripping. You know him, you love him, and he's back with another thriller. This novel is about an English teacher named Richard Boyle who stops a former student, Mark, from harming others when he shows up to the school with a bomb. It's a horrifying and unimaginably difficult position to be in, but his quick instinct saves himself and his students. But his heroism turns out to be a curse as a blackmailer comes for him. It quickly draws him into this entanglement of secrets and accusations. Richard tries to figure out the truth and uncovers that his blackmailer, the student Mark, and the drug dealers are tied together, and he is somehow in the middle of it because of a good deed. I think this premise is incredibly unique, and it's Linwood Barclay, so you know it's going to be done well. Next, we have Southern Man by Greg Iles on sale May 7th. Fans have been waiting for this, and they will not be disappointed. It is a complex literary masterpiece. This takes place 15 years after the events of the Natchez Burning trilogy. We find Pencage alone and carrying a large secret. But his exile ends when a fight at a Mississippi rap festival ends in a shooting that almost takes the life of his daughter. The communities are responding to this tragedy in various ways, like burning the antebellum plantation homes as an act of justice, and this division of race is furthered, and it's all exacerbated by the 2014 presidential election. Robert E. Lee White, a Southern war hero, comes to prominence as a third-party candidate. He's funded by this Mississippi billionaire, and they're really riding on the glory of their military records as the presidential campaign. White devises this plan that's going to further divide the country, states versus federal, democracy versus fascism, Black versus white, and Penn teams up with his daughter, who is a civil rights lawyer and a former Black Panther member, to expose Robert White to the world, risking a second civil war. This is a real timely page turner, and his writing is absolutely mesmerizing. I'm very much looking forward to librarians getting the chance to read Southern Man. Next, we have Death Under a Little Sky. HarperCollins UK published this in April, and we're so honored to be bringing this to the US audience. It received tons of acclaim from fantastic authors, including AJ Finn, which you can see on the screen, but also Lucy Foley, Lee Child. And Lee Child said, "Tense but patient, fast but thoughtful, and twisty but substantial. This is truly excellent debut, and I want the next installment now. So Jake Jackson is a London detective who is very much over city life and quits the force when his uncle dies, and he's inherited this secluded little house in the countryside. It seems like a dream. It's beautiful, quiet. The locals are a bit odd, but he's invited to the annual treasure hunt, so they seem nice enough. Of course, they discover the remains of a young woman, and Jake is forced back into his role as a detective to discover what happened to her and finds himself on the heels of a dangerous killer. You can leave the job, I suppose, but that doesn't mean the job will leave you. And the eGalley for this one is available now. Next, End of Story by A.J. Finn. A.J. Finn is the author of The Woman in the Window, which was an instant hit and so well loved. And for this new one, I want you to think part Knives Out, part Agatha Christie. Sebastian Trapp is a reclusive mystery novelist, and he writes to his correspondent, Nikki Hunter, who is an expert in detective fiction. And he says, "I'll be dead in 3 months. Come tell my story." Sebastian only has a few months to live and invites Nikki to live in his mansion in San Francisco to help him write the story of his life. So Nikki's going to be living with him, his wife, Diana, his second wife, his nephew, Freddie, and his daughter, Madeline. So Nikki starts to realize that she is caught up in a mystery herself, because 20 years earlier in 1999, Sebastian's first wife and teen son disappear from separate locations and were never seen again. Nikki has to figure out, is he responsible for the crime? And why did he even invite her years later to look into his past? Nikki becomes obsessed with figuring out the truth, while Sebastian's daughter, Madeline, is becoming suspicious of her father. And of course, it wouldn't be a great mystery without a dead body, and a body appears in the family's koi pond. That is End of Story by A.J. Finn, and we've gotten a lot of questions about e-galleys and physical galleys for this one, and unfortunately we won't have galleys in any form, but trust me, it is worth the wait. February will be here sooner than you think, because it is somehow already October. Next, we have The Last Word by Ellie Griffiths. Before I even start, I just want to say how much I love this cover. It's very bookish, and Ellie Griffiths is the author of the Ruth Galloway series, The Last Remains, and other novels. We love how much librarians love her, and we thank you for putting her on the library reads list again and again, and we're really excited for you to read this new one. I love a good duo, and here we have just that in The Last Word. Natalka and Edwin are quite different. I think that makes them a great pair. Edwin is a 80-year-old detective skilled at surveillance. Natalka is significantly younger than him, but is fantastic at math, which I cannot relate, but she excels with cases regarding fraud or deception. And she finds herself really frustrated with minor cases and has been itching for something larger, something more intense. And in comes Melody Chambers, a local writer that dies. Melody's daughters think that their mother was murdered, and Edwin thinks that Melody's death is linked to an obituary writer. So they go undercover to investigate and find themselves on a creative writing weekend at an isolated house. But of course, another murder happens, and they have to figure out, are these cases linked? Is this one killer book group? Edwin's wormed his way in, but he might be in real trouble. If you love books about books, this one's for you. I'm a huge fan, and I think book clubs in particular are going to get such a kick out of this. The eGalley is not yet up, but you're going to want to keep your eye out for it on Edelweiss and NetGalley. Next, and finally, we have Five Bad Deeds. You may be familiar with Kaz's previous books that were police procedurals, but this breaks out of that genre, and we hope that this will create new fans and grip the old ones. We all know that one seemingly perfect, holier-than-thou, upstanding woman from your rural or suburban hometown who looks like she could be on the cover of Good Housekeeping. That's Ellen Walsh. She's a teacher, mother, wife, and everything seems to be going very well for her until she receives a strange and unsettling note in the mail that reads, "People have to learn there are consequences, Ellen, and I'm going to teach you that lesson right under your nose." I think if I received a letter like this, I would think back to every person I may have ever scorned, including the Girl Scouts that I didn't purchase cookies from, but Ellen has no idea why this was sent to her, and she can't think of anything she's done that's been outwardly terrible or intentional, but none of that matters as someone blames her for the pain they've experienced, and she has to figure out who is coming for her in her spotless image as the note she is sent to get more aggressive. And that's really all I can say without spoilers, but this had me on the edge of my seat through the whole read, and I'm very excited for this newest. And that's all from me. We have a couple next in the series, and thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Grace. Next, we'll hear from Erica Loberg. Erica is a senior publicist at SOHO Press in New York City. The floor is yours, Erica.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I am so excited to share with you some highlights and previews from our titles mostly in 2024. Almost all of these, except the first one, which you'll see in a moment, are available for request on NetGalley and Edelweiss now. So please feel free to check those out. And my email will be on the last slide at the end if you have any questions. With that, I will get started. The next slide, please. First up, I am so excited to announce the return of Jacqueline Winspear to Soho Crime for the final novel in the iconic New York Times bestselling Maisie Dobbs series. The Comfort of Ghosts comes out on June 4, 2024. And there's no cover right here, but it is actually online. We just released it in the past week or so, so please feel free to go check that out. It is gorgeous and fits in so well with this whole series. Over 17 previous novels, including multiple award winners and bestsellers, the Maisie Dobbs series has become a modern classic in the realm of historical mysteries, the eponymous female investigator offering a compassionate glimpse into the difficult years between the aftermath of World War I and World War II. So that's all I can share about this for now, but we will be talking about this one a lot more in the coming years, so please keep an eye out for it in June and check it out online. Thanks. And the next title, please. In January, moving back a little bit, we have Kate Brody's debut novel, Rabbit Hole. This is a true crime-esque wild ride of a novel that fits squarely in the category of thrilling fiction about messy, unhinged women spiraling into dark and crazy waters. Our protagonist is Teddy Angstrom, a young woman who's just starting to get her life together when her dad, Mark, dies by suicide. See, 10 years ago in high school, Teddy's older sister, Angie, disappeared out of the blue, and no one ever found out what happened to her. But as Teddy learns now, her dad was secretly investigating and searching for Angie this whole time. Mark's death sends Teddy down a rabbit hole as she uncovers the Reddit community obsessed with Angie's case, and Teddy takes up her dad's investigation herself. She starts obsessing over Angie's disappearance again, and on Reddit, she connects with a young girl named Mickey, who's just as invested in the case, offers new info, and weirdly even kind of looks like Angie. Together, they continue searching for Angie, at the same time developing a weird, sometimes toxic friendship that further unravels Teddy's life and this grief-ridden craze. As the story gets dark, unsettling, and exhilarating, Rabbit Hole offers an addictive and unpredictable story with propulsive narration that pulls you into the rabbit hole alongside its characters. I don't say that lightly. When I was reading this, I literally would stay up late into the night and could not stop turning pages and going chapter after chapter because it's just written with that addictive pace. At the same time, it raises big questions about the ethics and the point of our collective obsession with true crime and the ways that real people and suffering are often forgotten in that craze. This is perfect for fans of Otessa Moshfegh, Gillian Flynn, and anyone prone to falling down their own Reddit rabbit holes. Next, please. In May, we have a new mystery from literary master Andromeda Romano Lax, The Deepest Lake. Andromeda is the author of Behave and most recently Annie and the Wolves. She's known for blending genres with an extraordinary attention to detail that brings her explorations of serious and sometimes even a little bit quirky topics into sharp focus. This is her first foray into crime fiction, and it is a twisty, suspenseful, and devastating mystery in the vein of Lisa Jewell, Celeste Ng, and Delia Owens. The Deepest Lake takes place at a luxury memoir writing workshop in Guatemala, where a 20-something-year-old aspiring writer named Jules drowned 3 months ago. Although Jules' death was ruled an accident, her mother, Rose, can't shake the feeling that there's more to the story. Excuse me. After all, Jules was deeply afraid of water, and she'd stopped texting her mom in the days before her death. So, desperate for answers and closure, Rose herself enrolls in the writing workshop, which is led by the famous writing teacher Eva Marshall, a charismatic woman known for her candid and controversial memoirs. While there, Rose gets swept into the curious world of Eva's workshop and begins to suspect a cover-up of her daughter's death. Interlaced with Rose's investigation are flashback chapters showing Jules's perspective and her growing disillusionment with her literary hero Eva Marshall. As the mystery of Jules's death comes into focus, so too does the mystery of the workshop itself. Is this actually a place where women come to heal, or is it one where they're injured further? The Deepest Lake is at once a twisty thriller, a tearjerker about grief and a mother-daughter relationship, and an incisive peek behind the curtain of the writing world. This is another one that's great for people who love books about books and authors and writing. As she draws from her own experiences in the toxic, exclusionary side of high-profile writing workshops, Andromeda Romano Lax delivers a powerful and propulsive story full of visceral emotion that you will not soon forget. Next, please. In April, we have a really exciting collaboration, The Murder of Mr. Ma by powerhouse mystery author S.G. Roseanne and former publisher of Marvel Comics, John Shen-Yan Ni. This impressive pair has teamed up to write a rollicking mystery that brilliantly weaves together Chinese history with the Sherlock Holmes canon, delivering familiar beats in a completely original rendition unlike anything you've read or watched before. Our Sherlock is Judge D. Renji, a larger-than-life character with a high mastery of kung fu who's based on a legendary Chinese figure. And his Watson is a shy academic named Lao Shi, who is based on the author of the 1929 satirical novel Mr. Ma and Son, which chronicled a Chinese shopkeeper's experiences with Western prejudices. The Murder of Mr. Ma brings these various influences together in a 1920s London mystery where Judge D and Lao Shi must find a murderer targeting Chinese immigrants. With transportive historical details, the novel sheds light on the true aftermath Chinese soldiers faced after fighting in World War I. At the same time, we're treated to a swashbuckling investigation featuring high-octane chases and action-packed cinematic fights, reminiscent of Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes films. The authors actually enlisted a kung fu consultant when they were writing this, so you can trust that the action really leaps off the page with authenticity. The Murder of Mr. Ma is a phenomenal collaboration that is at once a pitch-perfect Holmesian mystery and a stunning reclamation of the early 20th century Chinese detective figure. It goes without saying that this is a must-read for Sherlock Holmes addicts, but it's also highly enjoyable for fans of addictively action-packed prose and stories infused with Chinese history. Next, please. Also in April, we have Ash Dark as Night by Gary Phillips. This is the follow-up to One Shot Harry, which was a finalist for the Nero Award, a Washington Post Best Mystery of the Year, and excellently reviewed on NPR's Fresh Air and pretty much every national paper. Gary Phillips is a prolific writer, a veteran of the genre, and a monument in the crime fiction scene. He's often regarded in the vein of Walter Mosley, James Ellroy, and Raymond Chandler, so definitely hand this to fans of those phenomenal authors. The series follows crime scene photographer / occasional private eye Harry Ingram in 1960s Los Angeles, delivering LA noir at its finest and bringing African-American history to life in brilliant detail that feels startlingly relevant to current news. In this case, the novel centers around the Watts Rebellion of August 1965 in LA, when civil unrest emerges in the Watts neighborhood after 2 Black motorists are targeted in a traffic stop by the Highway Patrol. Harry arrives at the scene, capturing images much like what you see on the book cover here, with batons and dogs being unleashed on a mostly Black crowd. After Harry snaps photo evidence of an unarmed man being shot down by the LAPD, Harry ends up in the hospital, beaten, and with his camera confiscated. From there, his girlfriend, Anita, finds a way to rescue the film roll, and when the incriminating photos leaked, it makes front page news. So Harry's kind of in the limelight, and after he recovers from his injuries, he's under close watch from the LAPD's intelligence department when he's asked by a family friend to help investigate the disappearance of another friend, which leads him down a rabbit hole involving citywide conspiracies, lots of crazy twists and turns. So Ash Dark as Night is a fascinating noir detective story and an incisive portrait of African-American history and experiences that sadly remain pertinent today. Next, please. Finally, I'm happy to announce some new installments from some of our most popular series. In December, we have Daughter of Ashes by Ilaria Tutti. This is the 3rd book in the Teresa Battaglia series, which began with Flowers Over the Inferno. Teresa is a 60-something-year-old criminal detective who's worked hard for her rank in the male-dominated Italian police force. In Daughter of Ashes, Teresa continues her battle with Alzheimer's as one of her oldest cases involving a serial killer comes back to haunt her. In February, we have the next John Russell World War II spy thriller from historical crime fiction icon David Downing. Union Station is the first new sequel to the series in over a decade, so really exciting to have this from him. These historical thrillers follow John Russell, a British journalist in the midst and aftermath of World War II Berlin, and Union Station takes place in 1953 McCarthy-era Los Angeles, where John is now living an ordinary life with his family. He's writing a book, and then he notices somebody tailing him, and he kind of gets pulled back into the past he thought he left behind. Also in February, we have Last Seen in Havana by Cuban-American author Teresa Doval Page. This is the follow-up to Death Under the Palisades, and once again follows Mercedes Spivey, who has long grappled with the unsolved disappearance of her mother when Mercedes was little. Mercedes heads to Cuba to search for answers. And then at the same time, we get past narration from her mother's life 33 years earlier when she fell in love with a Cuban man and first moved to Cuba. This is an immersive mystery with touching relationship elements, and as always, Teresa writes in a completely immersive style full of spot-on details about Cuban life, culture, and food. And also in March, Cara Black's 21st book in the Amy LeDuc Parisian mystery series, Murder at La Villette, comes out. Cara writes Paris mysteries and thrillers like no other, and the stakes are really high in this one, as Amy LeDuc has been framed for the murder of her daughter's father. Now she's on the lam and must find the real killer to clear her name. And finally, in March, we have The Road to Murder by Camilla Trinchieri. This is the 4th book in the Tuscan mystery series, which began with Murder in Chianti. These follow ex-NYPD detective Nico Doyle, who's built a new life as a chef in a small Tuscan town. Once again, Nico's called upon by the local police force to help with an investigation, and we get a riveting mystery as well as excellent and delicious details about the Tuscan countryside. And last slide, please. That is all that I have for you. Here's my email on screen. Again, please feel free to ask questions or check out all of these titles on NetGalley and Edelweiss. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Erica. Next, we'll hear from Faith Matson. Faith has worked as the Director of Marketing and Publicity for Oceanview Publishing since January 2022. Originally from Colorado, she's now based in St. Petersburg, Florida, with her houseplant collection and cat that sheds too much. Welcome, Faith.
Thank you so much. All right. I represent Oceanview Publishing. For those of you who aren't familiar, we are a very small, independent mystery, thriller, and suspense publisher based in Sarasota, Florida. We put out, about 18 books a year, and we've really found our niche in the mystery thriller genre. So I've got some very exciting titles to talk to you about. Got a lot of them, so I'll just go ahead and jump right in. The first book on our list is Odyssey's End by Matt Coyle. This is the 10th book in his Rick Cahill PI crime series. This series is beloved by many of our readers, and it's very noir, hard-boiled. It's a very classic PI crime series. So in this installment, private investigator Rick Cahill's life is in upheaval. His wife and daughter have left, fearing Rick's violent outbursts caused by his degenerative brain disease, CTE. But when an old enemy offers Rick $50,000 to find a missing woman, Rick sees a way to provide for his daughter's future before the disease takes his life. So this is very high stakes, and Matt Coyle is an extremely talented author. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He is the best-selling author of the Rick Cahill PI Crime series, and he was named the 2021 San Diego Writers Festival Mystery Writer of the Year, and his novels have won the Anthony Award, the Seamus Award, the Lefty Award, and the San Diego Book Award, among others. He's also received nominations for numerous Anthony, McCavity, Barry, Seamus, and Lefty Awards, and Matt is a graduate of UC Santa Barbara, and he lives in San Diego. So this is a very highly acclaimed best-selling series, one of our top series, and we're really excited for this next installment. This one is great for fans of Michael Connelly's Harry Bosch and Lee Child's Jack Reacher. Our next book we have is Broadcast Blues by R.G. Belsky. This is another series. This is the 6th book in his Clara Carlson mystery series. And this whole series focuses on Clara Carlson, who is a TV newswoman in New York City. She always manages to get herself mixed up in some pretty interesting investigations, uncovering a lot of corruption and seedy activity along the way, and it makes for some really interesting news stories. So in this book, Wendy Kyle works as a PI for wives who suspect their husbands of cheating. So when Wendy is murdered, TV newswoman Claire Carlson knows it's her next big story. As she investigates, Claire is targeted by some of NYC's richest and most powerful men who will stop at nothing to keep her from exposing the secrets Wendy took to her grave. So R.G. Belsky has a background in TV news and in journalism, and so these books are often praised for their authenticity and their ability to really immerse you in that newsroom atmosphere. They're really interesting. And a little bit more about R.G. Belsky. He is an author of crime fiction and a journalist in New York City. He's been a top editor at the New York Post, New York Daily News, Star Magazine, and NBC News, and he currently lives in New York City. So this is truly an immersion into TV news, into New York City. It's very fast-paced, easy to read, and a great series to pick up at any point in time. This one is great for fans of Sue Grafton and J.D. Robb. All right, next we have Fire Trap by Otho Eskin. This is the third book in his Marco Zorn thriller series, which features protagonist Marco Zorn, who is a homicide detective in Washington, D.C. This is another great sort of investigative police investigation type book, but this one is also very action-packed. So for fans of more of an action-y mystery, this one is going to be great. In this book, a narcotic more deadly than fentanyl is spreading across Washington, D.C., and the bodies are piling up. Homicide detective Marco Zorn investigates the source of the drug, uncovering a far-reaching criminal pharmaceutical operation. Can he shut down the company before they release another new dangerous prescription drug? Only if they don't kill him first. So obviously this plot is very ripped from the headlines. It's very relevant to a lot of what we see in our news these days, unfortunately, but it might be interesting to a lot of readers for that exact reason. And Otho Eskin currently lives in Washington, D.C., so he is very good at immersing you in sort of the city feel there as well. He is a lawyer and a former member of the United States Foreign Service, and he's also active in the Washington theater scene and a playwright whose work has appeared in New York, Washington, D.C., and Europe. So he's very accomplished, and his books are very well written, and they're very exciting reads. So these ones are great for fans of David Baldacci and Daniel Silva. And then next up, we have The Diabolical by David Putnam. This is the 11th book in his Bruno Johnson crime series. So this is sort of another investigative novel, but this series is another one of our top series. People absolutely love these characters that David Putnam writes, especially Bruno Johnson, the protagonist, who is an ex-cop, ex-con, and he is constantly fighting crime, originally in Los Angeles and now in Costa Rica, where he has moved with all of these children that he has saved from terrible homes in South Central Los Angeles. So he basically runs a foster home in Costa Rica and cares for all these kids, and he sort of fights crime on the side, and it's a pretty remarkable story. So in this installment, a nightclub shooting in Costa Rica pulls ex-cop, ex-con Bruno Johnson into a criminal investigation. The chief of police has threatened Bruno with deportation if he doesn't catch the killer, but when Bruno comes under attack himself, he realizes the investigation will be much more complicated than he ever could have imagined. So this is another series that's really praised for its authenticity because David Putnam has a very lengthy background in criminal justice and working as a police officer. During his career in law enforcement, best-selling author David Putnam has done it all. He's worked in narcotics, violent crimes, criminal intelligence, hostage rescue, SWAT, and internal affairs, to name just a few. He's also the recipient of many awards and commendations for heroism. And as I mentioned, this is the 11th book in his series, and he currently lives in Los Angeles with his wife, Mary. So these books are very gritty. They've been called a gritty street poem, which I think is totally apt. But they are just action-packed. It will keep the pages turning, and you will be holding on tight until you get to the very last page. So this one is great for fans of Michael Connelly and David Baldacci. All right, and then next up, we have The Far Side of the Desert by Joanne Latham Ackerman. This book is actually much different than any of the books that I've shown you already. This one is a little bit more on the literary side, and it is a standalone novel of domestic suspense and international intrigue. Joanne Latham Ackerman is an absolutely phenomenal author. Her writing is amazing, and this is a great book for people who are maybe interested in reading more of a literary novel, but aren't quite sure that they can get there yet. So this is a nice stepping stone for them. And it's a bonus for people who really enjoy thrillers, because this is a great thriller as well. So a quick synopsis. Monty and Samantha Waters are on vacation when the unthinkable happens and one of them is kidnapped. Leaving no stone unturned, the other sister and their brother fight to bring their sister home. A family drama and political thriller, The Far Side of the Desert explores links of terrorism, crime, and financial manipulation, revealing the grace that ultimately foils destruction. So this is a really compelling novel. easy to just fly through all the pages. And it's great for armchair travelers, people who like to travel the world while they read, and just people who love a well-written, compelling novel. A little bit about Joanne. She is a novelist, short story writer, and journalist whose works of fiction include Burning Distance, Dark Path to the River, and No Marble Angels. Her recent nonfiction book, Pen Journeys, Memoir of Literature on the Line, drew inspiration from her job as a vice president of the worldwide writers and human rights organization PEN International. The Far Side of the Desert is her latest novel. All of her other books have been really well reviewed, and it's easy to see why. So I think this one will be no different. Definitely encourage you to check it out, and it's great for fans of Lisa Jewell and Daniel Silva. All right, and then the last book that I have for you today is The Underhanded by Adam Sykes. This is another standalone novel, and this is more of a spy thriller that intertwines historical conspiracies with present-day issues. And it's largely set in Europe, so another great one for armchair travelers. In this book, Professor William Dresden enjoys a quiet life in the south of France until an MI6 officer reveals that his family has secret ties to a neo-fascist organization that's tearing apart the fabric of Western society. William is thrust into a shadowy war with the evil cabal, learning that nothing in his life has ever been as it seemed. So this is a very cerebral, intellectual thriller. It's great for fans of spy thrillers who are interested in international affairs, European history, and also a little bit of the behind the scenes of intelligence operations. Adam Sykes actually has experience working in intelligence, so let me tell you about that. He is a novelist. He's also a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and Silver Star recipient, and a former CIA paramilitary officer who has lived and served around the world. Adam holds an MA in Global, International, and Comparative History from Georgetown University. He is the author of the spy thriller Landslide, as well as the co-author of the nonfiction book Open Skies, My Life as Afghanistan's First Female Pilot. The Underhanded is his latest novel, and Adam resides in Southern California. So again, this is a really great novel for people who are interested in espionage, spy thrillers, and it's very action-packed. It keeps the pages turning. It also has a little hint of a romance thrown in there, which is always nice. So definitely encourage you to check this one out. It's a very exciting book, and I think it's great for fans of Dan Brown and Jack Carr. All right, and I think that was just about it. So all of our titles are available on Edelweiss and NetGalley, which you can find at those QR codes. You can also email me if you're interested in any additional information. My email is up on the screen. Always happy to chat. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Faith. Finally, we'll hear from Morgana Santilli. Morgana is the sales and marketing coordinator at Yen Press. She's a former comic shop manager and buyer, and always particularly loved helping readers find their new favorite series. Other than reading manga, Morgana enjoys drinking lots of tea, snuggling with her 2 black cats, and collecting too many books for her children's personal library. Bring us home, Morgana.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Morgana. I'm the sales and marketing coordinator at Yen Press. Excuse me. You may know us and be kind of confused as to why we're on this webinar, since we are mostly known for publishing manga. But of course, manga comes in all genres, and we've noticed a real increase in mystery manga lately. And we also do publish some novels, and I want to tell you about a couple of really special ones we released recently. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. I'm going to start off with Can't Stop Cursing You. This is a manga series that is complete in 4 volumes. It takes place in modern Japan, but with a bit of a supernatural twist. In this alternate Japan, people are able to make deals with demons, kind of like Faustian deals, to get what they want. And in order to do that, they have to perpetrate what's called curse killings. So people are dying, and it is the result of these curses that the contractor has orchestrated. Sayama is a curse breaker who must kind of solve the clues and figure out who is the one who has contracted these demons and who's perpetrating these curse kills, and he has to do it within a certain span of time. He has to find, can't find more than 3 clues, otherwise he could also die. If you could go to the next slide, please, I'll show you kind of what the interior looks like. As you can see here, there's kind of a dark and brooding art style here. And of course, Sayama, our contractor, I'm sorry, our curse investigator, is a he's quirky, like any good investigator in any mystery story. He has his own quirks and his own dark background. So he's a lot of fun to read about. One of the really interesting things about this series is that the reader knows who the perpetrator of these cursed killings is. They are aware the whole time. It's kind of got it's like a dark and twisted Columbo, really. So yeah, this is a really great series. Once again, complete in 4 volumes, which is nice. I know a lot of people are kind of hesitant to start manga because some of the series seem so long, but 4 volumes all in one. And a really great kind of, if you are interested in a bit of a supernatural edge to your mysteries. Next slide, please. Lost Lad London is a very special manga that we started releasing, I believe, last year. It is also complete in 3 volumes. This is a manga by Shima Shinya, who is an incredible artist. If you could go to the next slide, you could see some of their artwork. In this story, the mayor of London is found dead on the underground, and college student Al Adley is implicated in this crime. He goes home to his apartment after hearing the news and discovers a bloody knife in his jacket pocket. He does not know how it got there, and he is very concerned. Meanwhile, Detective Ellis, who is a kind of rough around the edges New Scotland Yard detective, decides that he's going to investigate this murder, even though he has not been given the okay to do so. And he comes upon Al and decides that he believes that Al is not responsible for this murder. So so Detective Ellis and Al team up together to try and figure out what's going on. And in the process of this, they kind of try to figure out how Al is related to the mayor of London and why somebody might want to frame him for this murder. One of the things I think is really neat about Lost Lad London is that it is a manga, which means it was made in Japan originally, but it takes place in England, and it features characters of color who are not Japanese. Al is Southeast Asian. He's an adopted character, so he is kind of dealing with his identity as part of this story. And Detective Ellis is Black. And this is kind of a rarity in manga, and something that's really interesting to see. And interesting to see how the characters' identities are also kind of wrapped up in this investigation. This series is also complete in 3 volumes. It's one I really love. I think it's really special, very different from a lot of what we offer. And I was really excited when we announced that it was coming out. So again, currently all out, complete in 3 volumes. Next slide, please. Glitch is also by Shima Shinya. Again, you're guaranteed to have some really beautiful artwork. This series is a little bit different than Lost Lad London. Lost Lad London is very much centered in the real world, in a real murder investigation, whereas Glitch, the mystery has more to do with the town that it is set in. So siblings Minato and Akira have moved to a new town, and they have started noticing weird things going on. There are ghostly figures around. There's like the people around them are kind of strange, and they can't quite tell what is going on. So they have to get together and solve the strange happenings and the strange what are these strange things they're seeing in their town. And again, this is Shima Shinya again, so we've got some beautiful artwork. If you could go to the next slide, please, and take a look at this. Is Minato as they see one of these figures for the first time after introducing themselves in their new class. Again, really gorgeous artwork, very different, very unique. And yeah, another really exciting thing that we have offered from Shima Shinya, who's a bit of a new talent that we're really proud to have. This first volume just came out, I believe, in September, so this is still ongoing, but I don't foresee it being a long-running series. Much like Lost Lad London, I believe it'll be wrapped up fairly shortly, but I do not know for certain. Next slide, please. Manner of Death. This is another complete one. We have both volumes out. It's complete in 2 volumes. This manga series is based off of a Thai novel, which was also adapted into a live-action drama in Thailand. This story focuses on Dr. Bunakit, or Bun, who is a coroner who is called onto the scene of what he is told is a suicide. And when he gets there, he decides that the clues really point to this not have being a suicide, but rather a murder that was made to look like a suicide. And he becomes very suspicious of a man named Tan, who is there, who is allegedly the victim's boyfriend. In the course of trying to investigate what is going on, Boone is hurt. He's injured and sent to the hospital. A friend of his goes missing. There's a whole lot of kind of mystery and intrigue going on, and he needs to get to the bottom of what has happened to this woman and why is this being covered up. This series has a romance between Dr. Boone and another male character. So that's another kind of interesting twist on this, is that it is an LGBTQ love story, but kind of in this tense thriller drama situation. If you go to the next page, you can take a look at this is when Boone discovers that the victim has probably actually been murdered and did not commit suicide. And there he is seeing Tan for the first time and thinking he doesn't seem like he's upset enough, considering his girlfriend just died. So that is going to do it for the manga. If you go to the next slide, please. These next 2 books are really special. Tezcatlipoca is a thriller novel. It's big. It is over 600 pages, standalone thriller, crime thriller that focuses on the relationship between a drug lord, an unwanted child, and a Japanese heart surgeon, and how they kind of all become involved with each other and start this new criminal empire. It's a gritty, dark, thrilling novel. The author Kiwami Sato is a rising star in Japan. He's received much critical acclaim. He's won the Naoki Prize, the Yamamoto Shugoro Prize, as well as the Edogawa Rampo Prize for his mystery fiction. We're really, really proud to be able to publish kind of more literary mystery novels in English. We tend to, at Yen Press, publish a lot of light novels, which are intended for a younger audience. And it's really great to have this kind of serious, gripping fiction for adults as well. Next slide, please. The final novel I want to mention today is The Samurai and the Prisoner by Honobu Yonezawa. This takes place in 1578 during the Warring States period of Japan. It centers around Murashige, who is a warlord who has betrayed Oda Nobunaga, and he is expecting that his castle will be raided. And in the midst of this preparation for war, a hostage that he has is murdered, and he has to go to his dungeons and find a prisoner who he knows has the intelligence to help him solve this mystery, because he wanted to keep the hostage alive on purpose. So a really gripping historical mystery, great for anybody who's interested in Japanese history and historical mysteries in general. And that is my time. Thank you very much. And please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, morgana.santilli@yenpress.com.
Thank you so much, Morgana, and a big thank you to all of today's presenters. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and the video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past programs and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Between January 1st and August 31st of this year, 2023, ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom documented challenges to 1,915 titles. That's an increase of 20% from the same reporting period in 2022. Join the fight to help protect the freedom to read by supporting the Unite Against Book Bans campaign and visit their website, uniteagainstbookbans.org, for resources, toolkits, merchandise to donate, and more. And remember that you can utilize Booklist to support your library's collection development choices with reviews backed by the ALA. We have a special webinar subscription offer, and don't forget that your subscription dollars help ALA advocate on behalf of libraries, assisting those facing an unprecedented number of book challenges. Email us at info@booklistonline.com for more info. And attention booksellers, Booklist Reader showcases books your customers can purchase from your store today. In addition to sharing from your website, you can now distribute print copies to your visitors. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit our website to order copies for your store today. We have a special announcement introducing Booklist Book Club, a year-long partnership with your favorite publishers. Each month, Booklist will showcase book club picks and supporting materials from a different publisher, offering a wide range of genres and age groups to fit the needs of any book discussion group. Mark your calendars for November, when we'll hear about book club picks from Macmillan publishers. To find out more information, scan the QR code on this slide or visit our website. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's jam-packed webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, Severn House, HarperCollins Publishers, SOHO Press, Oceanview, and Yen Press. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.